Hello and welcome to a not real episode of the ABC podcast, but arguably more real than other episodes because I am joined by Brandon. How are you doing, Brandon?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Cause we just had lunch.
Yep.
And we caught up on some regards.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, I still don't know how I am. You know?
I mean, it is a very deep philosophical question.
Like, who am I?
Exactly.
Who is me?
You is Groot?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere.
But, I don't know. I'm just trying to live post-graduation life.
Mm-hmm.
Working jobs. Trying to pay bills, pay loans. Yeah. It's very, very stagnant. Let's just say that. You know, I've always
a good vocabulary word.
Thank you. I've tried to use my education to the fullest now that I'm done with school.
Right.
And I realize that some people outside of college don't really get the words I use, and so sometimes I have to just use very redundant adjectives.
Mm-hmm.
So look at this big, super large thing. I said that one time. And I don't know how I felt about myself after that. I just kind of realized, I've reached the lowest common denominator. So, but you know, it's not all bad. I know for like the past 2 minutes I've just made it sound like really like dull and bleak. No, I'm just job hunting. Trying to make it out there, trying to use my college degree for something. Just so much stuff you gotta do as an adult, man.
Mm-hmm.
But who am I to tell you this? You know, Mr. Actual adult of the outside world.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, let's catch up with you.
Okay, all right. Well, let's hit the brakes for 1 second here.
Okay.
Right,
no, what are you talking about hitting the brakes? I thought we were gonna go full throttle, Guy Fieri style.
Is that a thing that he says?
Yeah, full throttle, really?
Man. Okay. My dad used to watch Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives a bunch.
Somehow I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, that sounds about right for him. Anyway, so we've been to a few places that he's been to. Like there's this one place in New Mexico that is a liquor store on the front, and then you walk into a door in the back, and then it's like a restaurant. So we went there before, and a couple others, I think, but that's cool. Anyway, so pause real quick. So this is an update episode, update number 4. It's not a real episode because Brandon and I are both very busy people, and honestly, I didn't have time to go back and write down all the corrections for all of the last episodes that we've done.
Oh, how are you gonna live?
I'm pretty sure there's... Actually, I was thinking about it. The next time we do a real episode might have to be like all corrections because there will have been
I'm gonna pretend you didn't just say that right now.
Okay. I mean,
also because, you know what? Okay, before you continue, the amount of cut-ins you put of your own opinion in that episode... Like, you said, I think it was in either the description or you told me that it's gonna be one of the longest episodes.
Oh, it was the longest episode we've ever done.
And then I was like, why is that? Like, I remember just spending, like, most of the day with you and Robin, but it didn't seem that long. And then when I listened to it and I saw how much in between the episode you just kind of put in your own hot takes and whatever, I was like, you son of a... like, why would you do this?
I had a lot to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it took me 8 months to put out that episode.
All right. Okay.
So anyway, so this is just an update. So we have 3 things on the agenda today. All right. Number 1 is we're going to talk about our lives, let everyone know what has been going on with us. Because I feel like some people might care about that, but I don't know for sure. Second, we're going to talk about Game of Thrones for just a few minutes.
You're using the same number 1 on your finger to signify number 2.
Yeah, thanks. Anyway, Game of Thrones Season 8. I've got some thoughts. I'm sure Brandon has thoughts.
You have caught up on both episodes, right? Okay.
And then number 3, main topic for today. We're going to be reviewing and spoiling Avengers Endgame. I'm very excited about it. I have lots of thoughts.
I do too.
And it's going to be fun.
Okay.
So anyway, what's going on with me? Since the last time that we have been together, like literally, like I haven't seen before today. I had not seen Brandon since we recorded that last episode.
Yeah. It's kind of weird,
yeah.
honestly, because the minute I came into your house, it just kind of felt like any other day. I'm like, what's up? Except the fact that you have a baby now.
Yes, that's the main thing. Robin and I have had our child. It's a boy. His name is Benjamin Thomas. His birthday was November 10th. And he was born happy and healthy. And he continues to be so. I mean, not always happy, but for the most part, happy. And it's a trip, man.
I can, yeah. What's one thing you want to tell listeners about fatherhood? Because for most of I think the people who listen to this, they don't have kids yet.
Yeah.
That being said, a lot of people we know are getting married and they are starting to have kids. Yep. Vincent and Jasmine are expecting.
They
so,
are indeed.
Like, what would you want to like say about fatherhood, or just taking care of a baby?
Yeah. The notion that parents are always tired, 100% true. I used to, like, when I was in college, right, I would stay up till like 1 a.m. and then get up for 8 o'clock mass, and I would be fine. You know, it'd be a little groggy, but I would get over it. And I'm not a coffee drinker either. Like, it was all me. I would just pull myself up, get done what I need to get done. You know, it wasn't like that every night. You know, I definitely got, you know, good 10, 11 hours sleep nights. But a lot of the time, I would, you know, just truck on through the day. But now, I go to bed at, like, usually around midnight. Sometimes a little earlier, sometimes a little later. I have a part-time job now where I have to work nights, so those nights are late.
Oh, what's your part-time job?
We'll circle back to that. Let me finish my thought about babies. Okay, so, yeah, so usually I try to go to bed, like, around midnight. And, you know, usually he gets up, like, around 8-ish. Sometimes a little earlier, sometimes a little later, whatever. But even that, I'm just, like, so tired all the time. It's very exhausting. But it's worth it. He's very cute.
He is very cute.
One day, it won't be that exhausting. I'll be exhausted for other reasons. But, yeah.
How old is he now?
He is 5 months. 6 months in a couple weeks. Which is big. It's half a year.
Yeah.
With child.
Yeah.
With a child in the world.
But also, you know, you've survived that long with a child. Nothing's caught on fire yet.
No, not yet.
It's probably a lot of guck everywhere.
Yes. Very dirty, very messy all the time. That's no fun.
I have some pictures of them, yeah.
But, you know, I wouldn't take it back or anything, so.
That's good. Yeah. I'm really happy for you, yeah. I know a lot of people are happy for you, too. Yeah. Considering the amount of times I see people posting about Ben whenever they get a chance to see them. So usually my social media is, like, flooded with pictures of him. And who can blame them, honestly? Like, he's stupidly cute. The whole time we were at lunch, I just kept looking at him just because, I don't know, it's just kind of fascinating to see him just chewing on a toy. Now that I say it out loud, it's kind of weird, but yeah, I mean, you helped give life to this little thing, so.
Yeah. Worth it. I mean, obviously not everyone is meant to be a parent, and I get that and I respect that, but for me, I feel like it was a long time coming, and I'm happy to fulfill that purpose.
I do have a follow-up question.
Sure.
Do you, or have you started to try to get him to watch cartoons or stuff?
Yeah, so I take care of him most of the day. Like, my part-time job that I mentioned earlier, I only work at night. Robin is at school or her internship for most of the day during the week. So I'm at home with him a bunch, and I'll just throw on whatever show I'm watching in the background. And I'll, you know, he loves to watch TV, which Robin hates because it's supposed to be, like, bad for their development or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I kind of, like, I believe it, but I also feel like maybe they're blowing this out of proportion. Yeah. I feel like...
Because I was about to say, he kind of follows in his dad's footsteps.
I mean, like, TV is, like, such a new medium, relatively, that, like, I feel like it's going to be a long time before we really know the impact of letting babies watch TV. Especially now when they have like iPads and iPhones that, you would hold a lot closer to your face. But it can also be like really, educational and stuff. I just feel like there's a lot of unknowns there. But the general like prevailing science says that you shouldn't let them watch too much TV. So we try to limit it, but he also like it calms him down a lot. So, like, if we're holding him and we're watching TV and he starts freaking out and we can't do anything, usually if we just flip him around, he'll watch whatever we're watching and calm right down. Which is weird because we're watching Dexter right now, and it's a very not kid-friendly show.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's weird for him to watch that and for him to calm him down.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was the same case with me. I vaguely remember certain nights when my parents would be watching a movie and I would just, sometimes walk in and I couldn't go to sleep, so they would let me just watch the movie. And looking back on it now, I probably shouldn't have been watching some of the things that I've been watching.
Yeah.
It probably correlates with how I am now, but, things just happen sometimes when you're a parent.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he's gonna have an appreciation for Dexter when he grows up and he looks back fondly and is like, "Oh yeah, I remember that time. I was doing this with my dad, and at the same time, in the background, some dude was getting killed."
Well, I don't think he'll remember this early unless he's like a super genius.
I mean, you don't know that.
Yeah, you never know. But yeah. I mean, I could do a whole podcast about being a parent, but I won't because we don't have all day.
Is it going to change into the new ABC podcast where it's no longer Alex and Brandon, but it's Alex and Ben?
So Ben, what did you think about Endgame? And then he'll go, ah, because that's his favorite noise to make.
Yeah, the noises he makes are so funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So my part-time job, I'll just talk about it really quickly because it's really not that exciting. I deliver wings. I work for a restaurant and I'm a delivery driver. I mean, they don't just have wings. They have cheeseburgers and chicken sandwiches and ribs, which is really weird. And they smell super good, but I never had them because they're expensive. But yeah, it's not that exciting. I just get in the car, listen to podcasts. Most people are pretty nice. Most people are bad tippers, but there's a lot of good tippers. So
I believe that.
So yeah,
I feel like that's even doubly so though in New York though, because almost everybody uses delivery in some shape or form, and like here in Houston it's a little bit different because everything is spread out,
right? So
you can at least go and drive to your place if you don't want to deliver it.
Yeah.
I feel like for convenience sake, it's more easier to access delivery over there though.
Yeah.
And so I feel like at the same time, like by nature, you should be a better tipper. I have a lot of thoughts about tipping.
Yeah, no, honestly, like it's really weird because in case anyone forgot, I live in Syracuse, New York, which is a big college town. Like the university is the biggest employer in the city. A lot of the economy is driven by catering to students and whatever. And so a lot of my deliveries are to students, but then, a lot are to, regular adults. The students are typically the worst tippers. I very rarely get tips from students. And when I do get tips, it's not a very good tip. Yeah. I'm not trying to complain or whatever. I'm just these are just objective observations.
I've noticed that too. Also because you're a student, you don't have too much disposable income.
I get it.
But at the same time, I feel the same way. Like the service is being done for you.
Yeah.
You can at least throw in, couple of bucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even don't even give me $5. Give me just a couple of bucks.
Yeah. No. The idea of someone, bringing me food and me not giving them a tip is just mind-boggling to me. Yeah. And then, 50% of the deliveries I do in a night, I won't get a tip. So it's kind of crazy, but that's just reality.
You could always change reality.
If only. Reality is often disappointing. So anyway, that's enough about me. Brandon, please tell us about your life.
Besides the very bleak summary I gave in the beginning, right now just job searching. I have 2 part-time jobs. One is at a financial advising company, and the other one is at the same job I've had since college, which is working at a Chinese restaurant. And yeah, it's kind of weird now at this point, because at the Chinese restaurant, I told you earlier I'm about to hit my year 6 of working there, and it's a little bit odd. It's a little bit odd.
Half-Blood Prince here.
Yeah, I know, right? And I feel like ever since I've finished college, I've kind of been noticing some really weird things about customers now. Like I've always noticed weird stuff, but now that I'm supposed to be a functioning member of society, I notice that people are just really, really weird. Like, they don't pay attention to certain things. They'll ask you questions that really they could solve themselves if they paid attention to, like, a certain detail. Nobody reads the menu, so they'll come up to me like, hey, how much does this cost? And I get a little bit perturbed, because it's not that I don't want to help customers. Right. Like, that's my job. I'm just a little bit bothered when they don't take the time or the effort on their part to read the menu.
Yeah.
Or also the fact that they've been coming in here for years and you're still asking me how much a certain dish costs. And yeah, I don't know. Like, people will just like crap on me hard sometimes. And they'll which is weird because, you know, given my age and whatever, like, you would expect for me to like have some pretty good communication skills.
Yeah.
But yeah, like these past couple of months, like I've been getting some customers who are like, hey, your English is really good. You know,
wow.
how long have you been here? And I'm just like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, like sometimes like I didn't hear what you said. I thought you were speaking another language. I'm like, no, I speak English to you. I'm speaking to you in English right now. How do you want me to speak with a southern accent or something? And
that is crazy.
Yeah, it's not with everybody. I should clarify. Just certain customers I get sometimes. But, you know, everybody's still cool, though. Everybody's still, you know, what's up. So, at my other job, though, I don't like my other job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work in an office. I sit there for hours on end. I'm a telemarketer. But usually the way I pitch it to people when they ask me, like, hey, what do you do? I'm like, I say I work in communications for a financial advising company. Which sounds better. Yeah, right? Instead of just saying straight up, hey, I'm a telemarketer. I call people and nobody wants to talk to me.
Yeah.
People on the phone a lot of times don't think I'm real. They're like, yeah, nice vocal filter, buddy. Why don't you drop it and tell me what you really want? And I'm like, okay. And I'll tell them, I'm like, why are you still using that? I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. It's just my voice. I can't change that. But working at this job has given me a huge insight of what I don't want to do for the rest of my life. It's that, and also it makes me really, really appreciate the jobs I had in college. Because some of them were office jobs, but at least I was doing something. You know, here I'm just making calls to people and just watching a lot of YouTube and podcasts and streams. You know, it's not entirely bad though. Like, the amount of content I'm getting now from all of these channels. Yeah, I'm like, wow, I never knew about this. I never knew about that. So, you know, give and take some stuff. So that's just where I'm at. Job searching, trying to get my stuff in order, trying to move on to the next stage of adulthood, and also trying not to get fat. You know, I don't know why this hit me a couple of months ago, but I'm just sitting in my living room and I'm just like, man, I'm really worried about getting fat. So I went on a run. Worst mistake I ever did. Because it was weird because I like running, but you know, about like 10 minutes into it, I'm like, hey, this isn't too bad. And the minute 11 minutes hit, I'm just like, just like thinking my lungs are about to blow up. And I'm pretty sure people driving by me were just like, is that kid like okay? Because like, I don't know if I was running or how I was moving, but somehow I made it back to my house. And I just collapsed on the floor. So trying to, you know, shave off some of that weight from college.
Yeah. I don't even know when the last time I went for a run is. Probably like after I graduated. But yeah, I've gained, I don't even want to know how much weight I've gained since I graduated. Yeah, I mean, I think being in a healthy relationship, as weird as that sounds, like you get really comfortable with the other person, and you just kind of like...
Actually, let's talk about this just for like a couple of minutes, because like this is something like, it's pretty obvious for a lot of people, but some people don't know exactly the thing you're talking about. You get a relationship weight.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. Can I ask, did you get sympathy weight when Robin was pregnant?
I mean, so we have a scale at home, but I don't trust it. Like, I don't think it's a super accurate scale. Okay. So I don't use it that much, is my point. So I don't know if I gained any weight while she was pregnant. If I did gain any weight, how much it was. I probably did, but if I did, I didn't really notice. But yeah, I mean, it's like, well, for one thing, like, eating bad is easier than eating good and cheaper.
Yeah.
So you do that, and then, like, I'm not trying to, go out and impress anyone anymore. I just have...
Were you doing that before?
No. But it was at least something that was in the back of my head when I was like, should I go get Whataburger? No, maybe not. And then I would do it anyway. But now it's like, that's not even a thought that crosses my mind. Not that we have Whataburger in New York, but yeah. So that's definitely something that I've dealt with in the last year and a half, almost 2 years of marriage. And before, I mean, even when we were dating, I was gaining weight. But I don't want to talk about this anymore because it's very depressing. So... What
do you want to talk about now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much all we have to say. We already talked for over 20 minutes about ourselves.
Is it already been 20 minutes, really?
Wow. Crazy.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I know.
Right? Which is, quick tangent, because I was talking to Alex about this. So the whole time, about maybe a couple of seconds in the car was silence, and I'm just like, I don't know how much I can really talk to you right now, because what if we don't have any ammo for the podcast? So it feels like we're finally saying everything we want to say.
Yeah.
We just... At a certain point, it just got like, so can we talk at all, or can we not?
We did talk.
We did. We didn't just eat wings in silence.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So, I mean, our lives aren't that exciting, but it's not like they ever really were.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah. I'd be lying if I said, no, I had such a cool life. I really didn't.
Yeah. Same. Anyway, so that brings us to our second topic, Game of Thrones. The final season, which is just crazy to think about. But, so I don't want to go too into detail with it. Season 8, there's only been 2 episodes so far, and there's not too much to talk about, which is part of what I want to talk about.
Okay.
But I don't want to get spoilery, so we'll just kind of go vague with it, I think. Not that there's really been anything that you could spoil so far, just kind of little things that are not really that super important, but let's just avoid it just in case, because I feel like some people might be waiting till the end of the season to just watch them all at once. So season 8, I am very underwhelmed so far. It has been slow, a lot of talking, a lot of interactions between characters who either have never met before or who haven't seen each other in a very long time, and I appreciate that aspect of it, but I did not need 2 whole hours of just conversations between people. Like nothing, like action wise, nothing has happened so far, and I just feel like I know everything's gonna get resolved and everything, and so I should just like shut up and just go where the writers are taking me, but it just feels it's too slow for me, honestly. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
I think that's fair. That's I've seen a lot of people who have mixed feelings about the 2 episodes that have aired so far. Mostly because, that's exactly what you said. It's just nothing of major impact has happened. That being said, I actually really like these past 2 episodes, kind of because of that.
Yeah.
Because we know that it's going to go... no pun intended, south very fast. But I see where a lot of the the directors and the writers are trying to do their part of bringing all these characters together to just one single location. And the whole conversation dialogue aspect, it kind of gave me some nostalgia back to the first couple of episodes of Game of Thrones. Because not saying that things didn't happen there, but a lot of what drove a lot of the character development and a lot of the information of the story was just conversation. Mm-hmm. Whether it was explaining someone's backstory or just talking about a past event. And I think that was one of the strong points of why the first season was so well received, because they didn't just rely on flashbacks. They actually talked about it. Mm-hmm. And I, for the most part, do like that. I can't disagree that it's too slow, though. Really, we're just watching people, like, kind of walk around, like, oh, the dead's coming, the dead's coming, winter's here, and all that stuff. But given that this is this is the last time we're going to see all the characters so far alive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you watched the teaser for this week's episode.
Yeah, I did.
It looks like they're finally going to get into battle.
Yes.
It would be absolutely insane if we went for a third episode where people were just talking.
I will say, though, like, I do like the tension that's been building. Like, even though, like, it's been slow, like, you do feel like the coming tension.
Absolutely. But, so there's about to be a battle. Yeah. Someone's going to die, probably multiple someones. Yeah. And so that's, it's not like I'm looking forward to that seeing that happen, but, at least it'll be something.
Yeah, and I guess, I don't know, the second part of the second episode, I guess that's what really hit me, like, this is it. Like, I don't know who's gonna make it out of this alive.
Yeah.
Because, like, with some of the characters, their stuff is resolved. Like, there's no open-ended thing. Like, some of them have completed just knots on their stories. Mm-hmm. Not saying that you can't go any further in the story, but if something was to happen to them, any conflict or anything they have, like, it would be okay to kill them. Yeah. Which, not that it bothers me, it just makes me very uneasy about it.
Yeah. Okay, so last thing before we switch topics. Right. I don't have any predictions for if the Night King is going to win or if the Westerosian people will win. I don't know who's going to sit on the Iron Throne at the end of the show. And honestly, I don't want to try and make predictions. Yeah. Like, it's just, I want to be surprised and find out at the end when I watch the show. The only thing that I'm really, like, invested in finding out the answer to, that I hope we get an answer to and that they don't leave unresolved. Will Tormund and Brienne get together, or will Brienne and Jaime get together? Now, personally, I'm rooting for Tormund. And I feel like most of the internet is, right? Am I wrong in saying that?
Okay. People I know, like personally know, are rooting for Jaime.
Really?
Most people I see on the internet are rooting for Tormund. Yeah. So it's really weird. I'm getting so many mixed signals right now. And the thing is, like I like Jaime a lot. Mm-hmm. Which I thought I was never going to say that, but I like Jaime. Especially after, certain things that happened. Yeah. And like, oh man, like, Jaime, good for you, man. Mm-hmm. But then Tormund, Tormund is Tormund. And I think it was because of him that, we were able, not to take it easy in the episodes, but we were able to, like, breathe a sigh of relief. Yeah. Like, okay, things are going to be a little bit okay with him on screen. Yeah. And, I don't know. The whole Brienne and Tormund thing, it's been such a great little meme for the past couple of episodes. So, I don't know. Obviously the show writers, they know that this is something that people have really become very attracted to.
Definitely. So, but you, which team are you
personally?
On? Yeah.
Jaime. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like, I can't, like, say that's a wrong opinion because she is very obviously attracted to / in love with him. Yes, and I get that because of everything they've been through together. But before this last episode, I didn't really think he reciprocated those feelings, but, like, the things that he was saying to her, the looks that he was giving her, it kind of seems to me like he is attracted to / in love with her. And I can't, like, deny that makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. But Tormund is so obviously into her.
Yeah.
That, like, how can you not want him to you know,
yeah,
want them to get
honestly.
together.
Like, I feel the same way. Like, there's a part of me that just like, come on, just go for it, Brienne. Just like, give Tormund a chance.
Yeah, she's like so disgusted by
yeah, I
him.
know, but but like, even though, you know, the attraction's not reciprocated, like, you do see that Tormund has very good respect for Brienne, though, just because, you know, again, no spoilers, but there's a scene in episode 2 where they're just talking right before everything is gonna come, and he's just like giving Brienne a lot of compliments. Yeah. And then you see him, like, he's one of the biggest supporters of Brienne in that scene.
Yeah, he definitely is. So, unfortunately, I feel like the only way out of this is that one of the three of them has to die. Or maybe all three of them, I don't know. Yeah. But I don't want to see that. Like, I don't want anyone to die, even though we know, obviously, people are going to die. But, yeah, so that's a sad thing to think about. Okay, well, I think that's enough about Game of Thrones. I'm very excited to see how it all shakes out.
Me too, yeah.
And I don't know, it's just crazy to think about all of the things that are ending, like, really, like, big...
defining moments.
Yeah, monumental, like, media series franchises. I mean, we've got Game of Thrones, we've got Star Wars, we've got Marvel, we've got... I mean, these aren't as big, but Gotham just ended... Legion is ending this season. Preacher is going to be on its last season. I think there was another one that is coming to an end. Yeah. It's just like I don't know why 2019 is like when all of these.
Yeah. Maybe we misread the Mayan calendar. You know? It wasn't 2012. It was 2019. But you bring up a very good point because like I'm a little bit embarrassed to say this, but as you probably noticed, like I'm a very big NPR fan. Like, a lot of my social media is me, like, reposting stuff from NPR just because, like... Not because, like, I want to... Part of me feels a little bad because I don't want to come off as, like, a pretentious little prick. Being like, hey, look at me, guys, listen to NPR, I'm so cultured and whatnot. But, you know, they do have a lot of good things where they kind of talk about both the news outlets and also stuff with the culture. Yep. And so I listen to a lot of... things that they have on during the daytime. And to their credit, like, they will bring in people and they'll take notice about these things too. And so they were talking about Game of Thrones a couple of weeks ago, right before the premiere. And a lot of people kind of, like, struck it right on the head when they were saying that Game of Thrones is probably going to be this last big, definitive, almost internationally unifying medium for a lot of people because, you know, we talked about it many times on the podcast about how around like 2000, 2009, 2010, like this big surge of really, really good quality TV was coming out. Yep. And it wasn't coming out of like the big networks. It was coming out of like HBO, AMC, whatnot. Yep. Like, you know, of course, Breaking Bad, like who could forget like the big, big impact that Breaking Bad had. Absolutely. And then, you know, Game of Thrones, like I feel like it's going to be this last just defining moment for television. And I don't know when's the next time or if we'll ever get such a big phenomenon as this. Because Game of Thrones has just expanded so much over so much space and time. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and, you know, like, it's kind of sad to see it go. Like, I know it has to end, but you don't get too many moments like this where you get to really mention something and you can always rely on somebody somewhere else is going to know what you're saying. Like the words winter is coming, everyone knows what that means now. Yeah. You don't even have to be a fan of the show. Like you know where that comes from. Definitely. So it's very bittersweet. So I'm not ready for any of this. Part of me doesn't even want to watch Sunday's episode. What about the other part of you? I'm going to watch the episode. Well, yeah. What do you think I am? I will say this. I don't know if I told you this, but I give you credit for helping me get into Game of Thrones. Oh, you're welcome. Because do you remember the first time... Well, you don't remember, but the first time I went on our school retreat, we were in the same small group.
Yeah.
And we were thinking about, oh my gosh, what are we gonna call our small group? And nobody in the group had any good ideas. And then you chirp up and you're like, what do we call ourselves? House Targaryen. And then everybody was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, let's do that. I had no idea what this was, but I just thought the word sounded cool. And then, so you asked me, hey, can you draw a 3-headed dragon? And I'm like, okay. So I draw the sigil of House Targaryen. And then, to your credit, it was well received. And I'm like, where's it from? You're like, Game of Thrones? I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, that's cool, I guess. And then, after the retreat, I started looking into Game of Thrones. And I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty cool. So, now you helped push that momentum forward for me.
Well, I'm honored. And for the record, I still have that flag.
Are you serious?
Yeah, of course.
Man, that's some great memories.
Yeah.
I remember that was like the first time you and I talked, and
Yeah.
we talked about lemon grab, and like you knew what I was talking about.
It always comes back to lemon grab.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird hallmark of our relationship, but I'm not complaining.
It's acceptable.
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, on that note, only 40 minutes in, let's go ahead and get into our review / breakdown / thoughts of / memorial of Avengers Endgame. So this will be totally spoilery. We're going to be talking about every frame of every scene of the entire movie. So we're going to be here for 12 hours. So you've been warned. No, but seriously, we're going to be talking about the plot of the movie and everything. So if you don't want to, if you hashtag don't want to spoil the Endgame, wait, you know what I mean. If you haven't seen this movie yet, you need to go and watch it, because this is a cultural milestone that will never be achieved in the rest of human history, period. So you need to take a part in this conversation.
I mean, unless they do Endgame 2.
No, okay, we'll talk about that.
I'm kidding. No, that's a total joke.
I have a lot of thoughts about the state of the MCU.
Okay.
But yeah, so let's get into it.
Okay.
So I saw this movie yesterday. I've only seen it once. Brandon's already gotten to see it twice. He's very lucky, and he didn't invite me to see it the second time.
I thought you were busy.
I was.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
So I thought this movie was good. I thought it was a fitting end to many characters' stories, but I did not love it. And honestly, I think part of that is like a cognitive dissonance, because I don't want this franchise. It's really hard, because like the MCU isn't over, but the way that the story ended, a lot of characters are going to be taking a back seat, if not written out completely. And so I think that a part of me not liking this movie as much as Infinity War, which I still think is the best MCU movie, I think a part of the reason that I didn't connect with Endgame as much is because I know that it is the end of an era. But, like I said, I feel like a lot of characters got their screen time, they got their due, their stories are concluded, and that's great. But cinematically, I did have some problems with it. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. So, I think what I came up with for my quick summation is that it was a satisfactory conclusion, but not a, fulfilling conclusion.
Okay. I think that's definitely fair. Actually, I used to be in the same boat as you. And after just one day, I kind of just did a 180. Because I saw this at the Thursday night premiere. And I've never had this feeling before. I had both excitement and dread right before the movie started. I was also super tired as well, because it was at 10:35. And I knew this movie is 3 hours long. And I'm like, God, I'm not going to get home till 2:30. But once the movie happened, I started realizing that, okay, this is an entirely different approach than I was expecting from Infinity War. And there were, I'll talk about this later. There's a lot of different things that they changed up from Infinity War. And I was very surprised and very impressed by that. I was, for a while, having some issues regarding certain choices of characters and the story, and I was like you. I didn't know where I thought it fit in thinking that if it was better or on the same level as Infinity War. And yesterday when I saw it again, I'm like, okay, I think this movie is actually better than Infinity War.
Okay.
I am still with my begrudging issues, though. Like, I do also have some, not complaints, but just questions and concerns about what they did.
Yeah.
So, before we get into that, like, do you want to just summarize it? Do you just want to go, like, full throttle? I don't know why I keep using the full throttle phrase. There's no reason why. I didn't watch Guy Fieri before I came here.
I mean, I kind of want to do a summary, but like it's such a long movie, and like I feel like
I think you and I have, like, we've mastered like summarizing like these movies.
That's true.
So
just real quick before we do that, you know, I was thinking before the movie started, like I had predictions obviously, and I tweeted about them, and maybe we'll talk about that towards the end of the review. But I knew what I thought was going to happen, but honestly, I didn't even know what I wanted to happen, like how I wanted the movie to conclude. And it was weird when it did end, and I felt the way that I felt, and I was like, do I even like this? Like, is this how I would have ended it? And I mean, obviously I have no idea how I would have ended it because I'm not a movie writer, but it was just a weird feeling.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay, so the movie starts off, basically picks up right where the first movie ended. Well, I guess from like a
different point of view.
Yeah. And so they track Thanos to the garden, whatever. Did they name the planet? I can't even remember now.
It was like a name Nebula brought up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you want to start right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean...
So we're going to just skip over like Hawkeye's little intro scene. No, I'm totally fine with that. I just want to, like, you know, let people know, like, there is stuff before. Like, they don't just like start the movie and they just like fly off to go to Thanos. Yeah. Like, we do see, like, you know, where they basically kind of like confirm, like, okay, Hawkeye is in this movie. You know, he didn't snap out of reality. Yeah, he's there.
That's true.
He loses his family. You know, it's like a moment, and then the credits the Marvel logo comes. We see Tony Stark. He's playing not football, but what do you call that? With the
paper football.
Football with Nebula. It was a funny moment, and then we see him like about to die.
Yeah.
I will say though in that scene that I didn't realize how sick he looked in the trailer. Like I could see his like.
So just real quick, I didn't watch. I tried to do as much total media blackout on this movie as I possibly could.
Good for you.
Like I didn't watch any trailers. I did every time a commercial would come on, I would avert my eyes and like close my ears and start doing la-las. And I didn't look at the pops that came out for this. Like I didn't look at anything. Like as much as I could possibly avoid. Like
especially for you because you know you're so plugged in.
Yeah.
It had to be hard.
It was really hard because Marvel was going ham on their marketing, and I mean, I don't blame them, but like, just
I understand. Like, after a while, I did the same thing you did. Like I just didn't watch any trailers.
I think like I saw a few memes that got taken from the trailers, and I saw like the Thanos' armor on the Scarecrow thing, and that was about it. So. I did a good job with that. But like you were saying, I didn't know how sick he looked in the trailer. Yeah. But he looked like crap in this movie.
Yeah, no, he really did. I was like, to whoever thought of that idea, like that was such a good job. Because I'm like, I've never seen Tony Stark like that.
Yeah.
And then, disturbing. Yeah, it really was. It was also nice to see Nebula, like, she got along with Tony. I like that.
And also surprising, because I feel like they would kind of
not like each other, yeah.
But I guess it's like a Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah,
kind of
probably. When you're stuck in the middle of space.
Yeah.
And then, Tony and Nebula get saved by Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
She helps bring the Milano 2 back to Earth. Mm-hmm. Tony reunites with everybody who survived the snap. He gets mad at Captain America, which I was actually okay with that. Yeah. I felt like, you know, a bunch of people just died, but I understand why you were upset. You know, you haven't seen Cap in years, and I don't know, it was just a really good, like, character interaction between the two. Mm-hmm. And then there's just more dialogue, blah, blah, blah. And then, see, like, we already, like, went through, like, 20 minutes of this movie. See? And now we're up to the part where they're going to go track down Thanos.
Was that really 20 minutes in? It felt a lot
probably
less.
I'm just probably exaggerating, yeah.
Yeah, so they track the energy signature of the stones, and they fly off to this planet, and they ambush Thanos, and they find out that he destroyed the stones so that they could not undo what he did. And so they chop off his arm along with the gauntlet, which I guess was like fused to his skin.
It looked like that, right?
There was no point in him wearing it anymore. So they chop off his arm before they even find out that the stones are gone, I guess. Or Thor chops off his arm. And then Thor chops off his head, which was pretty brutal.
Yeah, and I remember sitting there thinking, did they just kill Thanos? And I was waiting for the reality stone to kind of come into play. Like, okay,
like a dream or something.
Yeah, like okay, he's trolling them. He did something. No, then the scene changes. I'm like, that's it. They actually killed present day Thanos. And I was like, what is happening in this movie right now?
That was I was trying to think if, like, obviously, like, other villains have died, but, like, I don't think we've ever seen one of the heroes just straight up murder them.
Yeah.
So that was a bold choice.
Yeah, and he went for the head this time.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Which is, he actually says that in the scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then it's a time jump.
Yeah, 5 years later. Which, so to jump ahead at the end, because I don't want to forget to talk about this, they obviously do go back in time, but they end up back in that present 5 years later, so 2024, which I thought was a really weird way to end things. Like, I understand why they did it, but I feel like that's also going to be very confusing going forward, because obviously in that 5 years, like, new technology would not have been developed and whatever. Like, I feel like the Earth and society was more or less at a standstill. So it's not like, they're going to be talking about, people in flying cars and jetpacks and everything in the next, Ant-Man movie or whatever. Even though I guess there already are flying cars and jetpacks in the Marvel world, but whatever. Anyway, I just thought those, like, I'm going to have to, like, remind myself every time I watch a Marvel movie from now on.
Like, it's not in our present day.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do have some issues with the time jump. Not because of, like, the fact that it jumped time, it's just, like, how some of the characters were 5 years later.
Yeah. I guess. So real quick rundown of where that leaves everybody. Captain America is leading, like, a support group for people who lost other people. Well, I mean, like, literally everybody in the world lost someone in the snap, and he's leading a support group, which was, I guess it makes sense. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, he doesn't have, like, a background in therapy or anything, so I don't know how qualified he is to do that, other than the fact that he's Captain America, but, whatever. We'll roll with it. Thor moved to Sweden and let himself go, and we'll talk a lot more about that because that was not one of my favorite parts of the movie.
I have very mixed feelings about that. Yeah. He helps find and establish new Asgard. Yeah. Which is, I feel really bad for the Asgardians. I feel like they were one of the ones who had it worse out of everybody. Thanos comes and kills everybody, like half the people on the ship, and then of those survivors, half of them died. Yeah. So there's only like a quarter of them left. So poor guys, man.
It was a nice little village, though. We'll give them that.
Tony as a kid.
Yes, that's, like, probably the most important one because that drives a lot of what happens in the end game of Endgame.
He finally married Pepper.
Yes.
They have a kid.
Yes.
A little daughter named Morgan.
Morgan H. Never found out what that stood for. I'd be curious what her middle name is.
I feel like it could be Happy.
That would make sense. That's not his real name, though, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, so she was very adorable, and we see not, like, a ton of him interacting with her, but he's obviously a very caring and affectionate father, which is good because we touch on his relationship with his dad later on in the movie, and so seeing that, I guess, the lessons that he learned from his raising and how he decided to raise his daughter. So that was very sweet. Banner is now permanently in Hulk form, but with the mind of Bruce, which, again, not one of my favorite parts of the movie.
I actually really love that.
No,
I love
like, I didn't hate it. I wasn't like, this is stupid. I'm pretty sure that has happened in the comics several times. Yes. But like, I feel like they talked about it too much. Like, they should have talked about it a little bit and then just let it go. And they didn't. But it was whatever. Natasha is, like, coordinating the different teams, like, around the world and around the galaxy. And let's see, Hawkeye / Ronin is it's an army of one now. Basically it becomes the Green Arrow in the beginning of Arrow.
I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that.
I mean, tell me the difference. Besides the fact that he has a sword.
Well, he's not crying over a blonde girl he's not dating.
That wasn't in season 1.
It was a little bit sometimes.
I don't think so. I mean, it's been a long time since I watched season 1.
It's been a long time since I've seen Arrow, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he has taken it upon himself to kill criminals who survived the snap because in his eyes, it's not fair that they would survive when his family and other innocent people did not. Which I get. Like, I didn't have a problem with him, like, working out his problems. I didn't really understand why the Avengers would care what he was doing, other than the fact that he was their friend and that he abandoned them to go on this mini revenge quest. But, like, after they come pick him up and he decides to go with them on this time heist, they really don't talk about it again. I also didn't really see much of the point in including it in the movie.
Did you like his hair?
No. That's just a personal thing. Like, I'm very particular with men's hair. It's not a 100% thing. Like, some people can pull off a hairstyle better than others. Like, I could never pull off that hairstyle. But no, I didn't really.
The only issue,
or his tattoo.
The reason I was asking is, like, one, how much product did he use in his hair? Like, even before going on missions, like, I had to imagine, like, he helped himself to a lot of gel or a lot of hairspray because it just stuck up in place. And like, I know this is a very trivial thing, but it was just sometimes right in the forefront, and I'm just like, how is his hair still in place like that? A lot of people say that all the time about Iron Man, and I'm like, okay, that's fair. Like, you wear a helmet all the time. There's no way your hair can look like that. But, Hawkeye's just out in the open. His hair is just, like, flying through the breeze. Ronan is doing that, yeah. And I don't know, sometimes, like, I just couldn't help but, like, look at the huge Jimmy Neutron spiral that was coming out of his head. Sometimes I was just cool with it, so.
Yeah.
I know that became a meme for a while, his, like, little mohawk.
Yeah.
And then somebody on Photoshop, like, really, really exaggerated the mohawk, so it was like, he looked like a dinosaur.
That was everybody, right? Well, the main 6 at least.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so we, like, basically catch up with all of them, and then Ant-Man shows back up. So because a rat. If you do not see Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I couldn't blame you if you didn't, because it wasn't really that important of a movie.
It was important. That's true. It was still a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. Like, not one. I would say a step down from Ant-Man 1, but it was fine. Like, I enjoyed it. Whatever. So in the very end of that movie, in that movie, they figure out how to access at will the quantum realm. Yeah, the quantum realm. And so they collect energy from it to help the bad guy from the movie because she's in this state of flux or whatever, and they capture energy from it in order to stabilize her. So in the end, Scott goes into the quantum realm to get more energy tanks or whatever, and then the snap happens, and Hank and Hope and Janet, whatever, they all disappear. Which you would think that one of them would have stayed because there was 4 people and 50%, whatever. I
mean, okay, just because there's a collection of 4 people, I know, that's not how probability works.
I understand that. I'm just saying, whatever. Also, something I just thought about, if Ghost never got more quantum energy, does that mean she, like, exploded or whatever?
Yeah, actually, I never thought about that until you mentioned it. But didn't Janet, like, help, like, subdue it when she came back from the quantum realm?
Yeah, but I think it was, like, a temporary thing. That's why he went in, was to get more energy.
Yeah. So, I don't know, like, I never really thought about that.
Yeah. Well, we should tweet at the Russo brothers, see what they say.
And then they're just going to be doing like, that's a good question. Let's make this up as we go along.
Yeah, so anyway, that's what happens at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp. And in this movie, he comes back. Because like Brandon said, a rat got into the van that they kept all of the quantum realm portal machinery in, and just by coincidence happened to hit the correct sequence to spit him back out of the quantum realm, which I thought was really dumb. Like, I knew he was going to be in the movie, and I knew that he was going to be an important part of the movie, and so I thought, I mean, I didn't know how he was going to get out of the quantum realm. That was one of the big questions that I had for what was going to happen. And, you know, I thought that I didn't even know what I thought was going to happen because, you know, it's not like anyone even thought to go look for him in the quantum realm. But then this rat just, like, very conveniently happened to push all the right buttons and he got out, and it just felt very convenient and underwhelming for me. And, like, I get it, they needed to get him out of there, but they could have had, like, the Watcher come and be like, hey man, they're gonna need you, let me help you out here. That would have been cool, because we already saw the Watchers at the end of, was Guardians 2? Yeah. So they've already been introduced into the Marvel Universe, but, you know, that's not my biggest gripe with the movie, but it was a complaint that I did have. How did you feel about it?
I didn't really think about it until I saw somebody mention it in a video. I'm like, yeah, that was a little bit too convenient for convenience sake, but it was one of those things where, like, I was okay with it. Yeah. You know, I mean, the probabilities are very, very slim. But, you know, it was convenient enough where we got to get somebody back. So I was okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that they didn't do, like, the super important thing, though. But part of me also feels like it would have been nice to have some sort of person come in and, like, step in and say, hey, we need to fix everything that happened because you've messed up reality. So
yeah, Scott gets out and he's trying to figure out what the heck happened, and then he finds out about the snap, I guess, and they erected a memorial to everyone who disappeared, I guess, just in San Francisco, because that's where he lived. And then how would he have gotten to the Avengers complex so fast? I don't know. Anyway, so he finds out that his daughter Cassie was not snapped, very conveniently, and so he runs over to the house and he finds her and they reunite and everything, and it's a very touching moment. And then he immediately abandons her. And
I'm gonna have one quick thing to mention. How old is Cassie at the end of the second Ant-Man?
I would guess like about 10 years old, maybe.
Like, she's still in elementary school-ish, kind of?
Yeah, 10 is like 4th grade, I think.
Okay. Because when she came 5 years later and they showed her, I honestly got taken out of the movie for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Because she looked way too old.
I guess so. I mean, I don't know the name of the actress that they got to play, and I don't know how old she would be, but she could pass. She passes for definitely under 18.
Yeah, well,
so I think so.
Maybe. I just personally felt like she looked way too old. Like, I get time has passed, but good lord, like, unless she really matured as a woman. But yeah, no, I just have to say, like, that was, like, one thing that just, like, actually took me out of the movie. I'm just, like, not expecting this grown up of a person to come.
Yeah. So, yeah, he gets to New York, where the Avengers compound is, and he tells them, I think that we can go back in time without access to the time stone. And he tells them about the quantum realm and how time works differently there, and how it's basically a map, or like a maze through the space-time continuum, and if you had a map that you could basically go wherever you wanted to, which again is very comic book logic convenient, but I guess I'm okay with that idea. You know, I'm not a quantum physicist. I don't know if that's even sounds remotely realistic. I like to think that it could be. I like to think that one day in my life I could travel through time, but that remains to be seen. If I was going to choose between teleportation and time travel, I would choose teleportation. That sounds like a lot more practically useful.
Yeah, I would say that too. I think we've had this discussion about you and I can be lazy sometimes. and also like we got places to be, and it would help us a lot, you know. I'm in my room. I don't feel like walking down the stairs.
Yeah. Anyway, so they go to Tony and they're like, "Hey, bro, we need you to build this machine for us," and he says no, which I understand. You know, he wants to be done with that life. Out of everyone that we really see in the movie, he is the one who has gained the most in the intervening 5 years, and I would understand why he doesn't want to lose that. Like, as a father, I definitely can sympathize with how he felt, but, you know, he's also an Avenger. Like, is it really fair for him to put his own wants and needs ahead of literally the entire universe? And I don't know. I was thinking about that. You know, if someone said to me, like, would you give up Ben to save everyone in the universe? Like, it's not like an...
Who asked you that?
No, I said...
Okay. I was like, who are you hanging out with, man?
No, like, I wouldn't have an immediate yes or no answer.
Yeah.
Like, I would have to think about it. Yeah. And I feel like Robin would kill me for saying that, because she would say, how dare you think about sacrificing our son? But whatever.
I mean, that's what Abraham had to do to Isaac.
That's true.
But it didn't happen. But, you know, I think you do touch on a good point, because like, even Pepper says it, like, we got really lucky. But I'm glad you brought that up when you said, like, can he really just let it all go? And we see that he doesn't. Like, he can't just let it go no matter what he says.
Yeah.
Because he sees a picture of him and Peter, and he just gets reminded about all that's happened.
Yeah.
And so even then, he's still fidgeting around with ideas and different concepts.
Did you really buy the closeness of their relationship? Because I'm not sure that I do.
I think I do. I understand why you would have some hesitation.
Like, in Homecoming, like, he's trying to keep him at arm's length, basically the whole movie, up until the very end when he asks him to be an Avenger and he rejects him. And then obviously in Infinity War, you know, Tony's talking about having a kid, and then Spider-Man, you know, hitchhikes onto Thanos' ship, and Tony's obviously very affected when Peter dies. And then when Peter shows back up at the end of this movie, Tony's all happy to see him, and I get that, but I don't know. I feel like they needed to hammer that home more before it.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. And then obviously Peter is very broken up about it when Tony dies.
Yeah. Did we go too far into the movie for you?
No.
That's sarcasm.
Okay.
But you know, I've noticed that Marvel has done a lot of these things where they just kind of like show a certain thing that happened, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this happened. We just didn't show it in the movies." Because like we never got an instance where Tony and Peter ever took that picture. So it leads us to assume that, you know, they had multiple interactions.
Yeah,
like,
I guess that's true.
That weren't shown in Homecoming or weren't shown in Infinity War and yada yada yada. I guess for myself, for like a suspension of disbelief point, like I understood it. I bought it enough where like it made me believe that Tony really did feel like he lost somebody.
Yeah. So anyway, Tony initially rejects Cap and Widow and Scott. Oh yeah, Scott's there. But then he starts working on this theory that they proposed, and he gets the right answer in about 5 seconds.
Again, this is one of those things where like we don't know how long he was like working on this, but in the course of the scene, he just like, all right, I'm gonna change this up a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me put this little holographic thing right here, and let's say some scientific stuff. And then boom, he solved time travel. Granted, his reaction was pretty genuine to the point where like I believed it when he was like, you know, to quote the movie, "Well, shit." And then his daughter hears that. And that was actually one of my favorite exchanges in the movie when his daughter starts repeating the word. And he's like, "You can't say that." I was like, "Why are you up?" "Because I got important shit to do."
Yeah, so then he decides, okay, actually, we will do this. They get Clint back. They get Thor back. That's everybody that they like needed to recruit, I think, right? Like everyone else was already like a part of the team. Like Rocket and Nebula and Rhodey all show back up.
Yeah. Captain Marvel is just doing her own thing.
I have a lot to say about Captain Marvel, but we'll save that for the end, I guess. Yeah, and so their plan is to get the Infinity Stones from the previous movies in which they were featured before Thanos can get to them, which is a solid plan, right? There's this one brief conversation between, Hulk and Scott and Rocket and Rhodey? Was it the four of them?
Oh, about why don't they just go back in time and kill baby Thanos?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, and Clint's there and Nebula's there.
Oh, were they? I don't know.
Yeah, because they were fitting Clint out into the time travel outfit. Yeah. Nebula was doing some schematics, and then Rhodey was the one who like brought up the idea, and everyone was like, "You can't do that."
Yeah, like that whole conversation was really like confusing to me. Mm. Like when Hulk was talking about like time paradoxes, sort of, like
it's like the present and the past.
Yeah, I did not follow that at all. Which is like, I feel like I'm usually pretty good with like following what time travel logic in movies, because like every movie has slightly different time travel logic. I feel like I'm usually good at following those conversations, but I did not understand what Banner was trying to say in that scene. So anyway, that's their plan, and so they all split up and they all go to different time periods to try and reclaim the stones, which is the main point of the movie, and that happens almost an hour into the movie is when it finally happens, which, if I had to name my biggest complaint with the movie, that's probably it. Like, everything leading up to that felt like it could have been truncated a lot. Like that whole first scene with Barton and his family, I get that it was emotional, and I get that it was showing where he was before that, but I didn't really need to see it. I feel like a lot of things could have been condensed, just so we could get into the movie. Like, I initially, I tweeted a couple times, half joking, half serious, that 3 hours wasn't going to be long enough. But, now that I see the final product, I feel like they went overboard with some of the unnecessary stuff, personally.
I think that it was an appropriate length. I did see what they were trying to do, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, that they did some changes from like their previous films, because I do see where they were trying to like make some changes of like, okay, in between certain segments, you see certain details that are going on between characters or between like the plot and the overarching storylines. I think I understand why you say like, just, you didn't have to have this and that. One of the issues I've always had with Marvel movies is that kind of like what we were talking about, the whole rat inconvenience thing. Some stuff kind of just happens in convenience. Some stuff just kind of happens just because like, this just happened to be here. Let's just go ahead and use that. And not to say that this movie like deviates completely from that train of thought, but at least I saw on some parts like, okay, they had to go and do this in order to make this happen.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, they really didn't need to go back to the 70s. Like, I understand, like, the whole going to the Battle of New York and how that got messed up and whatever, but they didn't really need to go back to the 70s, All that happened just because of one mistake. Yeah. It was an important, critical mistake.
Yeah.
But, did it have to happen? Not
then
really.
We wouldn't have gotten to see Howard or young Hank.
I
or
agree.
Stan Lee.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, I understand. But, like, did anything besides, like, character development really happen? No. Do you see what I mean? Yeah.
Well, they got to name drop Dr. Zola.
The thing is, like, you brought up so many good points. Like, I can't say that I didn't like that whole segment. Like, that whole segment was so great.
And then Shirley from Community was
yeah. Oh, question. I'm glad you brought this up. Do you know who the actor was for that security guard in...
It was Ken Jeong.
Okay, so it was Ken Jeong.
Oh, no, it was 100%.
I saw him and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Ken Jeong, but I'm like, he didn't talk, and usually, like, I could recognize his voice. And I saw him, like, I'm pretty sure that's him, but I didn't. And the second time, I'm like, that has to be him. I told my brother, please confirm this for me. And he's like, that's Ken Jeong. I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, that was very random. I feel like he just, like, called up his agent or whatever, and he's like, I don't care what it is. Just get me in the next.
Because,
Avengers
you know,
movie.
we're starting to see, like, community people in the in the MCU.
Yeah.
We got Donald Glover. We got Shirley. We had the Dean from Greendale. So
I was trying to think if Joel McHale has ever been in one of the movies, but I don't think he has. Anyway, so that's like takes up like the majority of the runtime of the movie. You know, a lot of stuff happens. Like they all try to go to these different places, and there's a snafu at each one of them.
Yeah.
Because of course there is. Like none of them goes smoothly. I don't want to talk about them too much because, like I said, it is like the majority of what happens in the movie. I thought that the whole like two nebula thing that creates like a paradox because of their like shared network or whatever, and that's how Thanos ends up getting to the future. Again, a little bit convenient, but also like pretty cool. Like I don't think I've ever really seen something like that in a movie before. So
actually, I was gonna say that I think that was one of the better explained, better executed ideas that were done, because you know, I didn't even think about the fact that her networking would come into contact with like another one. And so when like the 2014 Nebula is like taken in for like processing, and they kind of look into her memory banks, and Ebony Maw sees that there is another memory, but it has a timestamp from into the future. I thought, okay, that's actually pretty cool, you know. And you explained it. You didn't just like make it like, oh, you know, Thanos just finds out willy-nilly about it. So,
how did you feel about the fact that in 2014 Thanos had his 2019 design instead of his original Guardians design?
I had a feeling you were going to ask that. I had some mixed feelings, if I'm going to be honest, because one of the things I kind of thought about it was like, why didn't he have like his Guardians of the Galaxy armor in Infinity War? But then I thought about like, you know, years change, you know, people's taste in style changes, so he probably just made a new set of armor. But then you see like in the flashback when he first meets Gamora as a child, he's wearing that set of armor. So really, it just kind of depends on who the director is. Like, all right, I'm gonna make him look like this, or I'm gonna make him look like this. And so I was just like, I'm sure it's just like a change of clothes for him. Like, you know, oh, I have like all these sets of golden armor right here. Let me see which one I want to try on today. So it was a little bit jarring. It didn't bother me too much, but it was a thought that went through my mind.
But like his like face and stuff look different in the original Guardians movie too, but they don't make him look like that in this movie.
Which I'm actually okay with, because I love the design they used for him in Infinity War and this one. Because I had a lot of issues with how he looked like in the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it's just the eyebrows. Like, why does he have such bushy eyebrows? Those things were straight up caterpillars on his face.
That was something that I thought about while I was watching the movie. I was like, oh, they used the modern design instead of the quote-unquote old design. But so that was interesting. The only other one that I really wanted to go into detail on was the Soul Stone. Actually, that was a very pivotal moment.
Yes, it was. And I have a lot of questions about that. Mainly in that, are you basically... Okay, let me reword that. How do you feel about the fact that they basically reused that same like scene from Infinity War in Endgame?
Well, so in Infinity War, I liked that scene a lot. I feel like it really humanized Thanos. You know, he's not human or whatever, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Like it made him like I know some people didn't, but I really bought that he loved Gamora as a daughter. That he really cared for her, etc., etc., etc. And so it really pained him to have to kill her. I bought that, personally. And that's the only way to get the Soul Stone, you know, a soul for a soul. I don't know if it works the second time. You know, I can understand that, you know, Clint and Natasha love each other in a philos sort of way, you know, to get all theology of the body on you. I buy that, but she sacrificed herself, you know, it's not like he threw her down there, so I don't know how the, like, magic or whatever works. As far as their conflict between which one of us gets to sacrifice ourselves, I get it. You know, when it became clear that's what was going to happen, I thought that it was going to be her because I feel like, just to be brutally honest, like I feel like he has more to live for than she does. He's a family and everything, and the whole point of them doing this is for him to get them back. So I bought that. But yeah, I guess it was, a little bit of rehashing what happened the first time, but I guess I was okay with it.
No, yeah, because I felt the same way. Like, the minute they got onto Boromir, I was thinking, okay, there's only one way this is going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they found, like, a loophole where they both just sacrifice their lives, and you're like, oh, we can't get both of them, so we can't get none of them.
Or what if they push the Red Skull off the cliff?
Oh, yeah. And he just kind of, like, floats himself back up, like, let's try. At first I was, like, not bothered, but I was like, oh gosh, they're just gonna reuse the scene. And the problem is, like, the scene is, like, really well done in Infinity War. Yeah. And I knew, like, it's gonna work in this one. Surprisingly, though, I still like this scene very much, because you see the difference in, like, the two scenes, because in Infinity War, Thanos forces himself to, like, throw someone off. Mm-hmm. This time, they're both willing to sacrifice their lives for that. And you kind of see, the kind of definitive moment of, like, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice and give all of what it takes. Mm-hmm. Which is the line they were using throughout the movie, like, whatever it takes. And, yeah, they really played on the emotions really well on that. Like, I didn't think it dragged on longer than it had to. I didn't think it needed to be cut at any point. Like, I did like how they were trying to figure out this whole conundrum. Yeah. And I do like that Scarlet Witch at the end says, like, just let me go, it's gonna be okay. Mm-hmm. Because...
You mean Black Widow?
Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm just, like, too many... I'm thinking Scarlett Johansson. Yeah. Because I was watching her Hot Ones before I came here.
Okay.
But, I feel like it was necessary for Hawkeye because it just drove him further into, like, this pit of despair. Mm-hmm. To the point where, like, just give the guy a break. Like, he lost his family. You're making him, like, see the person that he cares about so much die in front of his eyes in such a brutal way. And so the fact that, like, they retreaded on those grounds, it was a little bit worrisome at first, but I was very happy with it at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I mean, it's a very, somber scene, so I don't know how it could be anyone's favorite. But it was definitely, I thought, one of the most important, like, pivotal moments in the movie. So ultimately, they succeed. They manage to reclaim all 6 stones, and they put them into an Iron Man gauntlet. Which was interesting.
I do have some questions because of that.
Yeah.
Because Thanos went across the galaxy to find this smith who could forge something powerful enough to harness the energy of the stones. And Tony is able to figure it out with an Iron Man gauntlet.
He is, like, the smartest person in the world.
I get that. But, the universe is a huge place. Yeah. As well as the fact that these stones have been around since the beginning. And all we needed was this. So it kind of brings into question, because Thanos is also incredibly smart too. Couldn't he just make something to do that? Like, why do you have to go all the way? Unless he was, like, just trying to be a huge dick about it. Which, he can be sometimes, but I really doubt that he did that just for the sake of, like, I'm going to just go mess with these guys.
So, yeah, and then they try to, they undo the snap. They very specifically, they bring back everyone who was disappeared by Thanos' snap and don't change anything else. That was Tony's whole thing, because he doesn't want to lose Morgan, which, again, we had talked about. Totally okay with it. Time jump. Still weird, but, it is what it is. And it almost kills Hulk. Mm-hmm. He's, like, the biggest and strongest of them all. He's talking about how the radiation from the stones is mostly gamma energy, again, very conveniently. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, maybe I'll be able to take it because of his chemical makeup, whatever. And then it destroys his arm, which was an interesting choice. It, I think, has implications for where the MCU goes from there. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that at the end. So that happens. Hawkeye gets a call from his wife, and that's how they know that everything was undone. While all this is happening, the Doppelganger 2014 Nebula was sabotaging everything, and I forget what exactly she did, but she like set up the dimensional portal or whatever to allow Thanos to come back.
Yeah, because she put in the entry gate from there, and then she went back to like 2014, and she gave, because she took nebulas, the current day nebulas, pin particles, gave it to Thanos.
Right.
They used it on Thanos' ship, and they were able to go into the quantum realm.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So like they shrunk down Thanos' ship.
Okay.
And they were able to bring Thanos and his whole army into the quantum realm, and they were able to go through the time travel. And then they were able to come out like that.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, and then, things happen.
Yeah.
There's just like the big climactic battle.
I will say, like, when he starts to fire onto the Avengers base, I thought Ant-Man died for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of like how close he was to the window in the blast. I was like actually aghast at that. And I was like, holy crap. That was actually really well done. Like, I feel like this was the destruction scene that people wanted from X-Men Apocalypse, because people were seeing how the mansion was destroyed because Apocalypse destroyed it, really just because there was a big accident. So I feel like this is what a lot of people were like wanting to see, of the big bad guy destroy the base. So, I mean, it was really well done, like, I have to admit.
Yeah. And, so everyone from every Marvel or MCU movie ever shows up, and they have this big, long fight. Yeah. Captain America wield Mjolnir. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, it was like, it didn't make me angry or anything.
Right.
But I was like, why is he worthy now when he wasn't worthy before in Age of Ultron? Like, whatever. It's not important. And, okay, so the first scene where all of the sling ring portals start to show up, and all of these wizards, all of the Wakandan
you mean
armies.
Sorcerers?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Those were the only, like, factions with, like, big numbers that showed up, right? Was there...
Well, okay, here's what I had some questions with. Okay. First off, let me clarify. I think that's my favorite scene in the whole movie, when, Captain America is staring off against, like, all the armies, and then after that you hear the static, and then you hear, like, on your left, and then I was like, okay, this is actually put together really nicely. So yeah, you're right. The Wakandans and the Sorcerers come, but then Valkyrie comes, and she brings a bunch of Asgardians.
Oh, okay.
And I see them, I'm like, first off, like, granted, the snap was undone, you have your numbers back. But there were a lot of Asgardian soldiers, and I was thinking, like, how did you get this many people? Because, like, there was no way that Doctor Strange was able to, like, go back in time, because he doesn't have the stone anymore. Right. So somehow you were able to get all these people, and, granted, they kind of do hint that, Asgardians were made to fight, but even still, I had a little bit of a, it's kind of a weird detail, but, I'm okay with it.
See, my moment was when they first they focus on the Wakandans, Black Panther starts doing their war chant and everything, and I was like, am I supposed to care about this? Because that happened in the first movie and they still lost, so I don't know what difference that's supposed to make.
Well, they lost. Okay, they lost, but they didn't have, like, all these other superpower people.
No. I know that, but then and then the sorcerers show up and everyone.
And then they bring in, like, it looked like Ravagers and other people from, like, the Guardians of the Galaxies.
Really? I didn't notice that. See, did you see Ready Player One?
I did. Yes.
When they did that huge sweeping shot with everyone just doing all this crazy action or whatever, that was my first thought. I was like, oh, this is just like Ready Player One.
Yeah, my brother mentioned that to me.
And I had the same problem with that as I did with this. Is there's so much going on. How could you, like, you could watch that for, a whole year and still, like, see a new, like, hero doing something heroic every single time you watch it. It's just too much to focus on, and, like, it's cool, but at the same time, it's like, I need to be able to see what's happening, and ultimately they do, go back and forth, showing different scenes between the different heroes and everything, but it's so much more, there's so many more people in this final battle scene than there were in Infinity War. It's just hard to focus on everyone.
I think that's a good point.
But yeah, I mean, it was really like, I was kind of nerding out on the inside a little bit.
Yeah, I figured you would. Yeah. It's okay. I was too. What was it? What was I about to say? Okay. What I had a question about was, okay, first off, let me backtrack. I did get a lot of Ready Player One vibes from that. I also got like vibes from the first Hobbit movie when they're talking about one of the battles that one of the dwarf armies were doing. So I saw a lot of that happening. I did have the question regarding that. Did nobody, I get that the world governments are pretty much decimated. You could have brought some people to help you though at that same point. Like I'm sure they could have like brought like the Air Force to come help them. Like 50% of people are dead, and I get the governments and everything is like at a standstill. You could have brought in some people. Like at every other superhero movie, the government has to come and interfere in some way, and they also like don't provide too much help. But in this final battle, when like the fate of the universe is at hand, you couldn't give like one tank or one fighter jet.
What difference would that have made?
You could have blown up some Chitauri. You could have shot somebody.
I guess. Oh,
that's not a factor that I hold against the directors.
Yeah.
It's just a fact I hold against like the characters of like the actual cinematic universe. Because if there's anything I've realized from some of action movies, like most of the time the government officials screw things up. The bureaucracy. I'm kidding, I actually don't have anything against bureaucracy.
Other thing that I wanted to say about that scene where everybody shows up was I wanted so badly for some like curveball for the like a character that had not been like prominently featured in a movie to show up. So like Daredevil. What I would have really killed to see is for the Fantastic Four to show up and for the Thing to go, it's clobbering time. Actually, that would have been the best thing.
That's a good point. I never really thought about that. This would have been a perfect moment just to bring anybody in. Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that.
So anyway, a whole bunch of things happen. Spider-Man goes into instant kill mode, which was pretty cool, even though it didn't help that much in the end. Yeah.
They start playing basically football with the gauntlet because they start throwing it to each other. Yeah. Which is cool. Like I'm glad Black Panther got a moment to do something in this movie besides just like appearing. He does it well.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he actually did something in this movie.
And in the end, Tony gets a hold of the Gauntlet 2.0, whatever you want to call it, and he takes Thanos out.
I will say before that, like, he does approach Doctor Strange and said, you told me, like, there's one reality where we win. Tell me this one. And Doctor Strange says, I can't tell you.
No spoilers.
Basically, that's exactly the thing. And I was like, okay. And then that's where, like, kind of pushes Tony to do that because like he holds up his finger very dramatically up to Tony, and then that's when Tony like goes into stealth mode and gets his stuff.
Yeah, so Tony snaps and all of the bad guys are turned into dust, including Thanos, and he has this very somber look about him as he drifts off into nothingness, and it was
he Voldemort's.
If you want to go off of the movies and not off of the actual canon of the books, yes, that's what happens. Yeah, and then Tony dies.
Yeah.
His last words in life, at least, are "I am Iron Man."
Yeah,
which was really perfect. Honestly, it's not his last words in the movie, and I understand why they weren't. Like, it was nice for him to have his like own self-made eulogy or whatever, but it would have been nice if his last words were "I am Iron Man."
Yeah.
Anyway, so Tony dies, for real dies, which was shocking. Well, kind of shocked. Like, okay, not shocking. I predicted that. I mean, I predicted the last movie too, but I predicted it for this movie. But I think a lot of people did. But it was still like
it was very emotional.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the best movie deaths I've seen, honestly.
Yeah, not to put my brother on blast or anything, but he cried when that happened. He got not like bawling or anything, but he was sniffling.
Which makes sense, because this was the guy who helped start it all.
Yeah, and so then, things go from there. They're just trying to pick up the pieces and everything. And, one thing we forgot to mention is that Hulk has this whole conversation with the Ancient One about the realities and how taking the stones each time you do that creates this whole fractured timeline, and they have to repair the timelines by bringing back the stones to the exact moment that they lost them, which Captain America decides to do by himself. And so he goes back in time, and the plan is for him to come back 5 seconds after he leaves, and he doesn't. He goes off script, and he hangs up the shield and has a long life with Peggy, and shows back up as an old man and passes on the torch, literally and metaphorically, to Sam. And that's how the movie ends, is with him and Peggy dancing. So I have mixed feelings about that.
Okay.
I think it was time for Captain America to step back. I think there have been several characters with the title of Captain America, and Falcon is one of them, but so is the Winter Soldier. So I feel like it could have gone either way. But, I guess I'm more glad it was Sam than Bucky. I think it's weird that Cap would just give up a life of fighting. Like, yeah, he has lived like a whole lifetime already, and he's fought his fair share of battles, but I feel like he is the kind of person who would not be able to stop himself from going back in the army, fighting in Vietnam and Korea and the Gulf War, etc., etc., etc. So that doesn't really make sense to me. Also, I thought that the super soldier serum would keep him from aging as fast as other people. So, like, by the time that he got back to the present, like, he should have had like a few gray hairs, not been like a super wrinkly old man.
I don't know. That's a good point.
And then the other thing was that we know that Peggy had a husband.
Yeah.
So he
cop blocked.
Did they get divorced, or did he change the time? Like, how does that work?
Okay, so now that we're done summarizing, I think we can now talk about like these questions that we have.
Yeah.
Okay. And primarily, I think these are just questions that they can't necessarily be answered.
Yeah.
So like you brought up a good point, like the whole Captain America thing, about the fact, like, first off, how does he get back, and has he created a fractured timeline, or has he done like a different universe? Because he's gone and he's changed things.
Yeah.
Like, it is no longer just straight up like that. And because of that, like, we can assume that he put the stones back.
Yeah.
Because he said that. And, I really don't think he was going to lie. But, like, and this kind of goes back to when Hulk was, like, kind of explaining things that you do. How is this going to work? Because,
Yeah, does that mean that he wasn't present in, like, the Battle of New York?
Yeah, because of, like, I get that, now that he's, like, here, like, everything's okay, but, like, what's going on? Because he was a pivotal figure in those things.
Yeah.
And, like, you needed him in order to get things done. So I have, like, huge questions for that. Somebody I saw on Reddit was trying to summarize that it was like a multiverse thing, and it was like, I don't know. That's potentially it. What I kind of feel like is that this is like kind of a safe way of like the Russos putting Captain America. Okay, maybe not the Russos, but Marvel putting Captain America in the back pocket. So because he's not dead,
right?
He's kind of written out, but if they need to, they're kind of bring it back. And honestly, that's kind of how I feel about like with Iron Man, because I don't think we're gonna see him for a while. I don't think he's permanently dead, to be honest, 100%. Because the reason I say that is because the thing with having the Avengers, also like you see in the comics, that like you have these characters at your disposal for your novelty that you kind of can go back to for reference. You don't need to have them as like the main figures in your story, but they're there in case you ever need them. And I actually have mixed feelings about Tony dying, not just because he's like Tony Stark, but also because they kind of do. You've seen, I know we talk about this, but like most of the Walking Dead, right?
I'm a couple seasons behind, but yeah.
So you kind of know the spoilers, right?
For what's going on now?
Oh, let's just say like with Glenn.
Yeah.
Yeah, Glenn, he almost dies in one season. He survives, only to die.
Right.
And I have some disapproving thoughts about that. The fact that they kind of do this here because he almost. Granted, Tony almost dies multiple times.
Yeah.
But Infinity War was one of the closest moments he's had.
Yeah.
And then he survives, only to die here. Not to say it wasn't a fitting death or that wasn't a good death, but, you've hyped out the audience. You're like, oh my god, he almost died. He survives, kill him off again like that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's just more of a personal thing for me. I know a lot of people were okay with Iron Man's death, but I still have some reservations.
Yeah, I mean, I was okay with it. I think that we've seen him a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, he is probably the most featured character in the MCU. You don't think so?
No, that wasn't me eye rolling. I was like seeing something from the corner of my eye. I'm sorry. No, please continue.
Okay. Yeah, I know that Robert Downey Jr. was just, I think he felt like it was time for him to step back, and I respect that decision. And yeah, so I thought it was a fitting way for him to bow out. So yeah. I was okay with it.
I think that's definitely fair.
Now that they've introduced time travel into the movies, like, they can do whatever they want to.
Yeah. So that's kind of like why I have some thoughts, like, he's not entirely gone from the picture. Yeah. Because remember, like, once they lose the Tesseract, Loki, he escapes.
Yeah.
And granted, like, the Tesseract is still in that timeline, but, Loki, he has the stone now, and they could probably write a whole nother story about, like, how he's gonna do something else with that. And, like, who knows, maybe the different timelines are gonna, like, come into limbo with each other or whatever, but I don't know, because you've opened so many possibilities with this thing now.
Yeah. Okay, so couple, like, miscellaneous things to wrap up. Captain Marvel. Did you see the movie?
I did not, actually.
Okay.
I know what happens. I didn't see it. I was so busy, and I'm just like, all right. I told my brother, just tell me what happens.
So I won't spoil anything. It was, in my opinion, a very middle of the road MCU movie. Not the worst, but nowhere near one of the best. And I didn't really understand a lot of the love that Carol Danvers was getting. Like, I think Brie Larson is very deserving of the praise that she's received. She is a phenomenal actress. She did a great job portraying the character in the movie. She's a very like sarcastic person, and she was just like fun to watch. But as far as like the character that they decided to portray her as, I never really found myself being attached to it or her. Her powers are just so like ridiculous that she's basically like the Superman of the Marvel universe, basically, which is not fun for me to watch. Like, I've never been a huge fan of Superman because he is just so like ridiculously strong and just has so many powers that it's like not it just doesn't connect with me personally. Right. And so, but they were like building her up so much as like the future of the next phase of the MCU and everything, and then she was barely in this movie, which I just thought was really dumb. Like, I don't know why we spent so much time like trying to make it seem like she was going to be this big huge thing, and then she's in the very beginning of the movie. She helps them. She's like, you have me. When they ask her like what's going to be different and how they're going to take down Thanos, and she's a big part of that. She's at the very end, and they have... Oh, we forgot to mention during the final battle scene, there's this one moment where all of the female heroes from the different movies show up, which, I'm not a woman, so, like, I don't, I can't talk about, like, female empowerment or whatever. Yeah. I'm sure, a lot of... I know for a fact there are lots of female Marvel fans, and I'm sure for them that was awesome, and I'm very happy for them, but it didn't personally do like, I thought it was cool, like it was nice to just see them all in one place together, but as far as I didn't like get up out of my seat or anything. I think people in the theater like clapped when that happened. Probably.
Mine was that too. At first I was like, oh no, like, because I saw when they were assembling, I'm like, damn it, they're gonna do a female thing. And then when it happened, I'm like, okay, screw whatever I was thinking. This is really, really cool. And
except that Black Widow wasn't there, so
it's true. Like... But then again, like, what was she gonna do? Shoot some guns?
That's what she does best.
That's true, yeah. Also, I realize now, once I said it, Cap does say Avengers Assemble.
Oh, yeah.
Which is...
Finally.
About time. I agree with everything you said about Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Also, because people were hyping her up to be like, she's going to be the one to defeat Thanos.
Uh-huh.
And granted, let me be clear, she does give Thanos a run for his money.
Yeah.
And you can see him, like, getting concerned. That being said, that fight lasted all of what, like, a minute?
Oh, the first time? On the...
No, the second time. Because, like, she comes to help stop it. And then she's, like, pushing against the gauntlet. And then he takes off the Power Stone. And he, like, punches her with it. And I was like, is that it? Okay, wow.
Yeah. So, I thought that was a little disappointing. Again, like, wasn't broken up about it. Because it's not like I was like, oh, yeah, go Carol. But, yeah.
I know. I think that's, an important piece of the thing. I know some people were a little bit bummed out about Thanos, just because he seems like a huge deviation from, like, the previous film.
Yeah.
And, I can see why. I'm more in the mindset, like, we had all of Infinity War to kind of see these great things about him.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say they're entirely wrong, because now he's just, like, a big bad in the movie.
Yeah.
That being said, it was, for me anyways, nice to see him do that, because we got all of, like, the humanizing interpersonal stuff with Thanos in Infinity War. Now we just kind of get to see him rage unleash and do everything.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too much a big bother.
That sword was super cool.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I don't follow the comics too closely. I don't know if he's ever used... No? Okay. No. Well, definitely, I thought it was a super cool addition.
Yeah, I thought it was definitely, like, badass.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he was, like, twirling it and just, like, throwing it everywhere. I will say, let's talk about this, because I'm glad you brought it up. Fat Thor.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'm glad you have mixed feelings about this, because I do too. Please.
I don't really think I have mixed feelings about it. I didn't really like it.
So you just don't like him?
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't hate it. I wasn't like, oh, this is disgusting. I mean, it was kind of disgusting. But, yeah, they, as a larger individual myself...
You're not that big.
Oh my gosh. I didn't appreciate all the fat jokes that were made towards him. Oh, another thing that I didn't like, when they go to his house or whatever, and Korg and Meek are playing Fortnite. Yeah. I rolled my eyes so hard.
Is it because it was Fortnite, or the fact that 5 years later Fortnite is still super popular?
Both. Yeah, I'm not a Fortnite fan, I'm not gonna, like, hate on people who do enjoy it, whatever floats your boat. But I do think that will age very poorly. Yeah. Like, in real life, 5 years, Fortnite is not gonna be a big thing. Like, there will still be people who play it. I'm sure there will still be content for it, but it's not going to be the biggest game in the world. So.
I do see why it was put in there, because Marvel allowed them to put Thanos into there. So it was definitely a promotion deal for them. They got screen time in Endgame. Yeah. This was only going to bring more people back into Fortnite for a while.
But in 20 years or whatever, when Ben is watching Endgame, he's going to be like, hey, Dad, what's this game? I'm going to be like, it's not even worth talking
I'm going to tell you this right now. You better hope that Fortnite fizzles out by that point. Because I have worries that Fortnite has, like, cemented itself into the culture of America.
No, there's no way.
And you better pray that Ben does not grow up playing Fortnite. Not that I have anything against the game, but, like, Fortnite is, like, you can't ignore it at this point.
It's not there's no singular game that is that pervasive for that long, because there's going to be like a Fortnite 2 at some point, and that'll reinvigorate the community, but there's going to be something bigger and better that we can't think of right now between now and the time that he's ready to start playing video games.
Are you just saying this because secretly you're a Fortnite player?
No, like, that's just...
It's okay if you want to admit it. There's nothing to be ashamed about.
I've never touched a game of Fortnite. That is the God's honest truth. But
what do you mean the gods? There's only one God, Alex.
No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay, we've already talked way too much about Fortnite. Yeah, so Fat Thor is just like... it was... whatever.
Yeah.
I really thought that when he got Mjolnir back,
he was gonna
zap lightning and get his armor.
He's gonna Shazam himself.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I thought it was gonna happen when he brought both Stormbreaker and Mjolnir together, because that was a great scene.
Yeah.
But then I realized like he just put armor over his like chubbiness.
It's magic armor.
Granted, like he looks the part of a Viking warrior.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with that.
I did like the beard and everything.
The braids and everything.
I think either Catherine or Jean Paul, they like groaned or snorted or something when that happened. But that's actually how he looks in the recent comics.
Yeah, which I thought was great. It was a good callback.
Yeah,
especially because this is where I'm actually rolling my eyes at, because the whole concept of the All-Father that Odin portrays is the fact that he's a huge caretaker of the 9 realms. There is no All-Father anymore. Yeah. And the thing is, like, Thor is supposed to become All-Father.
Right.
And, granted, like, him going and doing his own thing, like, that's okay, sure, whatever. Thor can have adventures. But the fact that they kind of just overlook the role he has to have. He's not just king. He's also, like, responsible for a lot of existence as well. And, he does look the part of All-Father. But part of me is wondering, like, are they ever gonna, like, touch upon that role? A large part of myself is thinking, no, they're just never gonna go back to that concept of the All-Father. So.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I was very surprised that he was able to move as well as he did. I will say that.
Yeah. Okay, real quick. Favorite funny lines from the movie?
Favorite funny lines?
Okay, I think my favorite one was when Ant-Man was like, "That's America's ass." I thought that
that was probably one of the best ones. And then Cap, after fighting his other self, like, that is America's ass. Honestly, I love any of the interactions that Tony had with his daughter. Like, when he said the bedtime story, and it's like, all right, go to sleep, otherwise I'm going to sell your toys. that was really great.
Yeah, I mean, also the "I love you 3000" thing, like, was obviously very sweet and everything, but it was also very funny.
Yeah, it's like, she just told me she loves me 3000. You were somewhere in the lower 600, 900 range. That one was actually like, I actually thought of you actually when I thought about that. I'm like, there's gonna be a competition about the love you get from Ben.
Yeah. This was like, I feel like the recent Marvel movies have really been putting an emphasis on humor, and this one didn't. And I get that, like, it's supposed to be a very serious movie, especially towards the end. So there weren't as many funny lines in this one as there were in Infinity War. I think that's one of the funniest Marvel movies, honestly. So there weren't too many lines in this one that stood out to me as very funny. Those are like the main ones, really.
A lot of what I actually really laughed about was when Thor gave his, I guess, summary of the ether, and he's going on these really weird tangents.
Well, when he's drunk.
Yeah. And he's like talking like, and we gotta fight the Dark Elves. Whoa. And like everybody just kind of gives him like these really like weird looks. And there's one shot of Tony. His glasses are like at the very peak of his nose. He's like chewing on something and he's like looking at Thor and just glaring over his eyes. And for me, that's like one of the funniest shots because I mentioned this in our review, Infinity War. One of my favorite moments is after Mantis says, we kick names and we take ass. And then Tony just has like this really sad look on his face and we're realizing this is it. Like this is how everything dies. That shot, I think it rivals the shot I was talking about for Endgame when Tony's like glaring at Thor. It's a good like rival to that.
Did you like the scene in the restaurant where the kids are trying to take the picture with Hulk?
Yeah, actually I did. It did kind of go on for a little long because it just got really awkward. Like, just take the picture. No, I don't want to take the picture. But I did like it just because of like what Thor is. I mean, not Thor. Hulk is now. He's basically a celebrity and people love him now. He's like, listen to your mother. She knows best. And he's like kind of like posing at the same time. I was like, it's so weird. But I'm okay with it.
Okay. I think there was something else that I want to say, but I don't remember what it is now. So let's make this our final topic.
Okay.
And it's, I think, the biggest question to come out of this whole movie is, where does Marvel go from here?
Yeah, that's a question everybody has had.
Yeah, it is very apparent to me that they are done with the main 6 Avengers because Tony's dead, Black Widow is dead, Cap is an old man, Hulk is down to one arm, Hawkeye is probably needs to like atone for his sins and spend time with his family or whatever. The only outlier there is Hulk, because at the end of the movie he gets on the ship with the Guardians of the Galaxy. What did I say?
Hulk.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's good. You do the same thing I did. I called, Hulk Thor.
Yeah, so Thor gets on the ship with Star-Lord and company.
Yeah, the Asgardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. Which I'll be curious to see if they call Guardians 3 that.
The Asgardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a possibility that might happen.
Yeah.
So he is almost certainly going to be in that movie. And so I'm curious to see how that turns out. But the other 5, like, they're done, right? Yeah. So I think we're done with like their main story. I feel like there will be cameos from them probably, especially now that Stan Lee can't make any more cameos. May he rest in peace forever. So where does that leave us? And I certainly don't know the answer. I'm sure that Kevin Feige knows what they're going to do, but I don't really think they've really given us any good hints. Now, obviously we know Spider-Man's coming out later this year. We know that Black Panther 2 is in the works. Guardians 3 is in the works.
Oh, yeah, because James Gunn got rehired.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Not because I'm mad about it. It's a very complicated situation that we don't have time for. Yeah. I think Doctor Two Strange has been confirmed.
Doctor Two Strange. I kind of like that title. It's Doctor Two Strange.
Yeah. That's on the calendar, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think Captain Marvel 2 is also on the calendar. But that's about it, I think. I don't know of any like new superhero franchises that they're planning on rolling out. Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy to me how, I tweeted yesterday, and I honestly mean that my whole life was leading up to this moment. Like, that's how it feels. Like, obviously Iron Man came out when I was in high school, so that's not really my whole life, but it basically feels like it has been. And now here we are. Like, this is what everything led up to. And, like, for that reason, I love this movie and hate this movie, because, like, it's the culmination of everything that's happened.
But it's also the emotional attachment you have to that, too.
It's just a really, like, crazy thing to think about. Like, that would be like, it would be like if the church decided to say, like, hey guys, like, mass is over, no more, go home, don't come here anymore. Like, I don't, like, that's...
What?
I don't know. It's just like, I'm not trying to compare Marvel to religion.
No, yeah, I know what you mean. I'm just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, but, like, it's just, like, a crazy thing to think about. And... because it's so weird, because it's like it is over and it's not over at the same time. Yeah. And I just I feel very like broken up about it, but like in a good way. Like, I don't know, like, it's like you don't want it to end, but also like you're glad to see it end in a mostly good way. I don't know. Yeah.
It's okay to feel emotions, Alex.
And then there was also no teaser at the end of this movie, which was very surprising to me. One of my predictions for this movie was that they were going to set up Kang the Conqueror as the next big villain for like their next, trilogy of Avengers films, and that didn't happen. Not to say that it can't happen, but I really thought that I feel like they needed, and I kind of still do feel like they needed to give some kind of direction for where this franchise is going, because I have no idea what they're going to do now.
I do think it was probably the most appropriate thing for them to do, though, just considering like the scope of the movie.
Yeah, but you don't want to know what's coming.
Oh,
next.
Yes, I do. Yeah, but part of the great part of the journey is the mystery behind it. Yeah, and so I'm okay with not knowing anything in the next couple of movies. Part of my gripes I've always had with the Marvel movies is that they show the timeline. And like, so like, okay, this next movie is coming this way and the next movie is coming this way. But I do like that we don't really know, like, the big picture point that they're going with. So it's going to be interesting to see for these next couple of movies what they do with it. Because it looks like they're just going to be individual stories. But, we could be wrong about how they kind of go about it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like part of what made the MCU so special was that it wasn't just, leading up to one Avengers movie. Like, we knew from, I feel pretty early on, that it was going to be Thanos. He was going to be the puppet master behind all of the arrival of the Infinity Stones.
You could say he was pulling the strings.
Exactly, pulling the strings.
Quick tangent. I thought Ultron was going to make an appearance in this movie, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Just because, like, you know, once they kind of mess up with one of the things, like, okay, we got to go back and do it. But, you know, he didn't make it, which, you know, it's nothing bad. Like, I don't mind that Ultron didn't come in. But, you know, I thought like he would have, like, kind of made an appearance and kind of rub it in everybody's faces, like, haha, I was right. You guys didn't listen to me. Also, Vision, like, they never really, like, do anything with Vision.
Yeah.
Like, he just kind of stays dead.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
But he's getting a TV show. So
Which is true, yeah.
There's that to look forward to.
Yeah, he's getting a TV show with Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
And Bucky and Sam are getting their own TV show, too. So I do...
And Loki.
Yeah, and Loki as well. I do hope that they take care of those characters.
Yeah. Because
it's very easy for this to go awry.
Yeah, so like I said, or like we both said, I don't know where they go from here. And that is both saddening but also kind of exciting.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but it's like, you know, I'm sad to see these characters that we've known and grown to love for all these years go, but you know, the next phase is a mystery, and that's kind of cool. And I don't know, it's really weird to see the end of this monumental achievement. You know, no matter how you feel about Marvel and the Marvel movies and everything, I don't think it can be denied how powerful this whole trend of movies has been. And it's we are really blessed to have lived through this. I just think it's really cool, crazy.
Yeah. Destiny arrived.
Okay, well, I think that's everything we have to say about Avengers Endgame. Oh, Doctor Strange is a waterbender. That's last. I'll end on that note. Okay, so that's what we have to say on the matter, but we would really love to know what you have to say. So you can send us an email to abcpodcast92@gmail.com, which reminds me, we actually got an email about this movie. I put out lots of tweets asking for emails and only ever got one, which is, you know, unfortunate, but that's okay. So this comes from PETA, and she wrote a very long email, so let's go ahead and read it. So she says, Alex, Brandon, and whoever else might be a guest. To start off, I do want to apologize for my grammar, bad grammar, sentence structure, etc. Think of it as a word vomit rough draft that I'm not going to edit. I unfortunately don't have the time to do so as finals are approaching into my life. But I did want to take the time to express my thoughts to two of the biggest nerds I know. Also, if this ends up being super long, please feel free to ignore it altogether on the podcast. Well, too late. I watched this movie last night, Thursday at 11 p.m., and if I think too hard about it, I could still cry. Overall, I loved it. I laughed, I smiled, I felt happy, heartbroken, etc. They did a great job of making me feel exactly what they wanted me to feel. But for some reason, what I feel the most right now is sadness. Probably because it's the end, which they portrayed beautifully, I might add. I'm having a hard time remembering all of the happy/fun moments, and there were a lot, because the sad is outweighing the happy for me. The death of Tony is weighing heavily, but I think we all knew deep down that he would be the one to die. He was the beginning of this journey, and it only makes sense that he's the end. 11 years come full circle. It had to be him. I love you 3000, Tony. Sad face. The death of Nat also hurts, but for me it's because I did not see it coming. I don't think many people did. I don't know. She sacrificed herself for half of the universe, though. We have to thank her just as much as Tony. On a lighter note, I truly appreciated that the entire time heist, which was, about an hour of the movie? Was basically a huge Easter egg. It was great material for reminiscing and to feel all the feels of the past 11 years. As for the funny stuff I can remember off the top of my head that I really appreciated. Fat Thor. Damn, I thought I had fallen off the wagon. I don't know what that means.
I'd rather not say it, to be honest. I know what that means, but I'm not gonna explain it.
Alright. Korg, which she put in all caps. I was so happy to see him, with 3 exclamation points. Smart Hulk's confidence was great. I found him hella attractive. Feel free not to read that out loud. Okay, you should really put that before you want something not read out loud.
She's really bad at writing messages. Okay. I've learned this the hard way.
She said what we thought was going to be the reenactment of the elevator scene in Winter Soldier, but ended up being a Hail Hydra gag, comedic gold. Badass scenes. When the Fallen came back from the dust, so freaking awesome. I actually cried out of happiness. All of the ladies getting together to kick names, take ass, amazing scene. Cap and Thor's hammer, all caps. And then she said, he is so worthy with 3 exclamation points. And then she said so many more, but this is getting long. Problems / things I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around. All of the time travel stuff. Time travel has always been confusing to me. We all knew that they were going to somehow use the quantum realm to time travel. That was no surprise. But this movie definitely has me questioning the laws of time. If 5 years have passed, why did Peter Parker go back to high school? Shouldn't there be repercussions of Steve Rogers staying to live a full life with Peggy? This is probably just a me problem because I'm legitimately confused. Yeah, I did think about that. Like, everyone who was snapped is going to be 5 years younger than everyone who wasn't snapped. I guess Ned was part of the snap, which they never acknowledged, but imagine if he hadn't been and he was like graduating from college and Peter was still in high school. Like, that would have been like, I feel like that could have been really funny. But yeah. Then her next thing was Jane Foster, 3 question marks, and then a bunch of periods, and then 4 more question marks.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I mean, it was really random that they got Natalie Portman in there, and then like she like had what, like 2 lines.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. There are a few more minuscule things that bothered me, but I can't remember at the moment. Now that I know what happens, I need to rewatch the movie so I can come to terms with this being the end. I mean, I hope I can. I feel like I've been waiting my whole life for this, and now it's just done. 13-year-old PETA could never have imagined how this would pan out. Dang, guys, it's over. Help me. Cope. But like I said earlier, it was a beautiful ending. So I'm thankful to Marvel for a wonderful 11 years. I can't wait to see what comes next. There are many more things I want to mention, but it was a 3-hour movie. It's a little difficult to talk about everything in what was supposed to be a short email. I hope you guys have fun talking about it, and I'm excited to hear what you guys thought about the movie. Forever crying in a quarter, PETA. So, thank you, PETA. That was a long email, but I appreciated it. And for the rest of you who saw my tweets and did not email, I still love you, even though that's not cool.
I was going to email you, but it was just going to be just a big picture of your face with a whack meme. So, for the sake of this episode, I'm just like, nah, it's okay. I meme you enough, so it's fine.
Okay, well, that is that. So, before we get out of here, gotta end every episode with Fan Fic Fights.
Okay.
AKA the Kevin segment. We have not called it that in a long time.
Yes.
But bringing it back. So, obviously, have to go with a Marvel theme. And I think you could argue that Ant-Man was the most important character in this movie. Probably was Iron Man, but I think there would not have been a solution if it were not for Ant-Man, because he brought the whole time heist idea to them. So anyway, somehow we have never done Ant-Man versus the Atom.
Okay.
And Death Battle's never done it either, which is wild to me. So that's who it is.
I would like to take this moment to kind of point out that they did a Doctor Strange versus Doctor Fate fight. And I don't remember which one of us like had the person, but whoever bet on Dr. Fate won.
I did Dr. Fate, and you did Doctor Strange.
Okay. So, you win that round.
Yes. Just like every round.
No, you don't.
I've won every single...
That's such bullcrap.
Okay, so rock, paper, scissors?
Sure.
Okay. No, 2 out of 3.
I know. I'm just getting ready. I'm just like, I have so much sweat on my hand. I had to like wipe it off.
Okay, I will choose the Atom.
Okay. Actually, I'm really surprised about that. I thought they were going to do Ant-Man. But okay.
I threw a sneaky at you.
Yeah, you could say that. Sneaky bastard.
Go ahead.
Once again, it is me that goes first. So, who are we going to go with? Or you want to go with Scott Lang or Hank Pym?
Whichever one you think would be better.
Okay. Then I'm going to go with Hank Pym. So we'll do like non-MCU.
Yeah.
So, Ant-Man, aka Hank Pym, he is the basically prime proprietor of the Pym particle. He helped to discover that particle, and he helped to synthesis into what it is in the Marvel universe, which is this particle that helps to shrink or enlarge objects or people. And you could use that in basically anything. Primarily what he uses it for is either to shrink himself down to the size of an insect and communicate with ants to help with his deeds, or he uses it to get very big and become, sometimes he's called himself Giant Man. Hank Pym goes back and forth with a lot of these things, but that's basically the use of the Pym particle. Some of the best known methods that he kind of uses it for is primarily reconnaissance, as well as keeping a small little target on the battlefield while he goes about and causes havoc. I think his fight against the Atom will be very difficult in the fact that the Atom deals more with like getting down onto like a molecular level, and he has more of a bit of freedom concerning his powers, whereas Hank Pym, he uses his powers, but it doesn't give him like flight or anything. He just kind of stays the same as he goes big, small, bigger, smaller. That being said, I think that Hank is a little bit more creative with his powers, so I do see him kind of tipping the battlefield to that and more unorthodox methods. I think that Atom is going to be probably a huge challenge for him at that point, but I think it kind of comes down to like how they're able to use their powers in that. Because Hank Pym, even though he's not the best hand-to-hand combatant, he is very good at problem solving. So I do see him coming up with a way to distract or manipulate the Atom's powers with that. Because the Atom has been shown to like have some weakness in his state with that. When there was a fight with the Justice League and Deathstroke was able to manipulate the Atom's power with a laser pointer, and it kind of disrupted the power, so he was able to like knock him out with that. So if it was something like that, I'm pretty sure Hank Pym can figure it out as well. But I'll turn it over to Alex.
So Dr. Raymond Palmer, aka the Atom, is a billionaire, genius, playboy philanthropist who has mastered the art of subatomic shrinkage. Like, I'm sure, like, he doesn't have some cool thing like the Pym particles that he uses to shrink. There's some kind of like quantum entanglement BS explanation. I don't know what it is, but he essentially has the same power as Ant-Man. I feel like a lot of this fight would be them going back and forth between who's small, who's big, who can shrink and grow faster than the other one and like step on them, but he's gonna try and step on me, but I'm strong enough to like push him off, whatever. So yeah, there'd be a lot of that. The Atom also has the power to get super big, just like Giant Man, Goliath, whatever you want to call him. So they're pretty evenly matched on that front. Atom does have the power to travel quickly by shrinking and traveling through phone lines, which I realize doesn't make any sense, but that is canon, so you gotta deal with it. And I don't think that would come into play in this fight. I just wanted to say it because it's very funny and stupid. Advantages that Atom has over the Ant-Man. So his suit is much more tech-based than Hank's is. He has like rocket boosters and little like energy blasts that he can shoot out and everything. I think it also gives him a little bit more defense because it's made from like a special like star alloy or something like that. So, it's going to be pretty durable. He also is a scientific genius, and so in the Injustice games, he has like these potions that he uses to augment his attacks and stuff that, they do damage to the enemy over time, and sometimes they explode, and they do all kinds of cool things in those games, or in the one game that he is in. So, yeah, I think he just has a lot more versatility to what he brings to the fight, and would ultimately be victorious. Yeah, so I think that's everything we have to say about the movie. This took a very long time, but...
I mean, it wouldn't be a you podcast if it wasn't.
That's true.
Like when I did Austin's podcast, and we were over in about like an hour or something, I was like, this seems very wrong. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, so that brings me to the plugs for the show. You can follow me on Twitter at AtariAlex. You can follow Brandon on Twitter by going to my Twitter bio, and you can find his username there because it's very hard to pronounce. Once again, you can email the show, just like PETA did, to abcpodcast92@gmail.com, and we would love to hear from you. It's obviously too late now to have it read right afterwards on this special review episode. But...
unless you time travel back through into the quantum realm and you fix all this.
But you can always send us a review of Endgame by shooting us an email. Also, I would like to say that if you would like to hear Brandon bare his soul about his dating life and the things that are turn-ons and deal breakers for him, you should check out the Deal Breakers podcast that is hosted by our friend and one-time guest on this show, Austin Cruz. You can find that on YouTube and Google Play and
Spotify. Yeah. Great podcast, really fun. I kept up with it. Anyone who's ever dated or thought about relationships, I strongly encourage you to go and take a listen to it. You may or you may not agree with it, but I feel like it has something for everyone to kind of come to terms with.
Yeah. I've only listened to the first episode so far. Brandon was somehow lucky enough to be the inaugural guest on that show. I only had time to listen to the first one. Yeah. It took a long time because Robin wanted to listen to it too with me. And I had to pause. She texted me about it too. I know. Yeah. I had to pause it like every minute because she kept trying to like talk over you to say something about what you were saying. And it was, she's an interesting person. She knows about everything too. I don't know why she was texting me either. I don't know. Like I've told you guys multiple times. You know what? I'm not going to say anything on this podcast, but it was very funny to know that my laundry is kind of out there into the ether as well. So yeah, go check that out. Okay, before we go, a couple announcements about this podcast. So I have been re-listening to our old episodes of this show, which I gotta say was a very good idea. I've been enjoying it a lot because it's been so long that I really forgot like a lot of the things we talked about. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, that was a really good discussion. Oh, I remember when I said that. It was really funny. A lot of the really weird nonsense sometimes we talk about. Yeah. I've just been having a very enjoyable time doing that. I appreciate that, man. Even though it's like your creation. Like I don't know, I feel really happy to hear that. Yeah, I mean, my goal with this podcast has always been to make something that I would enjoy listening to. And I know that sounds very selfish, but I'm a huge fan of podcasts. I know what I do and don't like, so that was just a very easy barometer for me. And so to go back to it, years later and still be enjoying it, I think is a very good sign of the success in that goal. But anyway, so that has prompted me to do a couple of things. The first one is that I've been keeping a Google spreadsheet, just tracking a few stats and stuff about what we talked about in the show. It's not like super interesting. It's mostly just things that I find, just to help me keep track of, some certain things. But the link is not live yet. Whenever I get this one edited and ready to go, I'll tweet that out at the same time. So you can check that out on my Twitter. And that'll be cool. The other thing that it's made me do is go back and edit some of the earlier episodes of the podcast. Because when we first started, I really had no idea what I was doing. So they don't sound as great as these do now, which honestly still don't sound amazing, but I do the best with what I can. So yeah, I'm calling them the HD remasters of our okay, so you're going that kind of route with you're taking something and you're gonna do a remaster of that thing. Okay, so but is it actually a remaster, or are you just putting a nice little gloss over it? That's what a remaster is. It's not a remake. That's when they go from the ground up and remake. I think you can make some argument to that sometimes. I agree with you, but I think that the general consensus is how you distinguish those two things. Anyway, that's what I'm calling them, and you can deal with it. So I'm about halfway done with the first episode, and so that should be live, hopefully within a week or so. But, I'm very busy raising a child and everything. Just have Ben edit for you. Yeah, that would go very well. It's important to learn these skills at a very young age. Yeah, until he spits up all over my computer and ruins it. That's why you get those protective casings over that thing. Yeah, so anyway, that's cool. Last thing to say about the podcast is I will be leaving Syracuse sometime in the summer. Now, I don't know where I'm going because I still don't have a job offer, which is very disappointing and very scary, let me tell you. But I tell you what. going to be moving out of New York, and I don't know where yet, but there is a very good chance that I will be moving back to Houston. And if that happens, then that means that Brandon and I will be reunited in the same city, and we will make time to do this podcast. So
I'm gonna stop you right there,
okay,
because I'm not gonna have you make assumptions like that.
Okay.
I'm not gonna make you make promises like that.
Look, if I have to make Brandon live with me so that we can record this podcast, I'll make sure that it happens.
I am a very good roommate. I clean.
Yeah, I know.
I cook.
I've been there.
Yeah. So, but no. If you are able to come back, I promise you, I'll make time for your podcast.
That's what I like to hear.
Yes. If by chance I ever make a podcast and you come on mine,
that's a deal.
All right.
So, yeah. So I can't make any promises yet, but there's a good chance that there will be new content for this show in the future. Okay, last thing before we go. I have a present for Brandon. I left it downstairs. Okay. I'm going to go grab it, so
This is new to me. He never mentioned anything about this. I don't know what's happening.
Just talk to the people.
Okay. So what's up, guys? It's just Brandon here. Hope you're all doing well. I want to let you guys know that for all of you who are able to listen through the entirety of these podcasts, good on you. Honestly, good on you. It's tough sometimes making 3 hours of your day and just to come here and sit and talk about stuff. But it's worth it. It's worth it. Except whenever you guys think like, oh, excuse me, I have a different thing to kind of, oh, excuse me, Alex came back.
Okay, so I came home for Christmas, and unfortunately, Brandon and our schedules were conflicting, and we didn't get to see each other. So this is your belated Christmas present.
What? Oh my, you've got... Oh, dude, what? This is so good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. But you have to tell the people what it is.
It's a copy of Ironheart, Riri Williams, the sassy, young, black, female Iron Man. This is such a meme of this show that I honestly, this makes me so happy. I've realized that a lot of podcasts and a lot of streams, I think that they started to do is they start making memes of certain phenomenon that happens on there, and I can look back on ours and say we have a lot of those.
Yes, definitely.
Like this one, or Migo first,
or strings,
or canceling the apocalypse. There's so many of those.
Yeah,
and it would be really fun to kind of see them come back in a prevalent way. Not on our podcast, Grant. I mean, they're still gonna come on the podcast, but who knows? Maybe they're gonna come back in ways to haunt us forever.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I'm sorry you had to hold on to this for so long.
Oh, it's okay. Okay, well, on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here 2.5 hours later. So thank you all for listening, and we will catch you all next time.
Bye.